Welcome, everyone, to Noble Capital Markets Basic Industries Virtual Equity Conference, and thank you for joining us today. I am Mark Reichman, a Senior Research Analyst at Noble. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Roger Rasmus, Founder, CEO, and Director of Goliath Resources Ltd. Goliath Resources is an exploration company that is pursuing precious metals projects in northwestern British Columbia, including the prolific Golden Triangle. The company has discovered a large, high-grade gold system at its Golddigger property, which had never been drilled before. Goliath benefits from several key strategic investors, including Crescat Capital, Mr. Rob McEwen, Mr. Eric Sprott, and a global commodity group based in Singapore. The company's shares are listed on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol GOT, the OTCQB under the symbol GOTRF, and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange under the symbol B4IF. Roger?
Yeah, good day. Thanks for having me, Mark. I appreciate the ability to share the story of Goliath. I am the founder and CEO of the company. It's fairly a young company. It's been around since 2017. By way of background, I was essentially an investment banker, had my own exempt market dealer's license in Toronto for 25 plus years. Prior to that, I was doing mergers and acquisitions with family-owned enterprises. But I was financing a gentleman over the past decade or so, primarily in the mining space. Exploration, and showed me a package of rocks and got me really excited. And really, the vision was to what I got from seeing these rocks was the potential to possibly find the next large, new, undiscovered, never drilled before gold system in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. And in a very short period of time, we've actually made that happen. We're definitely on track with discovery of a brand new high-grade gold system that had never been drilled before until we came along. And the reason being primarily is the fact that it was covered under permanent snowpack and glaciers up until recent time, which have melted away of an exposed brand new mineralization at surface, which we benefited from finding that in a very prolific area of lots of mines, deposits, and so on in British Columbia. With that, I'll start my deck. Forward-looking statements. Again, by way of background, touched on myself, serial entrepreneur, and again, been raising money for companies for 25 plus years. I've got a great team around me, also entrepreneurial-minded folks that I've known for 20 plus years. The new individual to the stable on our team is Dr. Quinton Henning, who is an advisor to one of our largest strategic shareholders, which is Crescat Capital. And Mr. Henning, he's been around for 30 plus years, working for majors, mid-tiers, and so on. So he's seen exploration all the way through to production scenarios. So it's a great asset to have on the team. Quickly, share structure. I'm currently actually just closing on close to 16 million Canadian dollars. That'll be closing in the next week or so here. This is a pro forma share structure. It'll be just over 135 million issued outstanding, fully diluted to be about 161 million shares. If that was the case, that would bring an additional sort of 24 million dollars Canadian into the treasury. As Mark had mentioned, we've got the board and team. We've got sort of 19% of the company on a partially diluted basis. Crescat Capital holding around 14.4% of the company. I do have a strategic institutional group. They're just sub 10%. And Rob McEwen, obviously, he's sitting at 3.9%. He's putting some more money in now, as well as this global commodity group based out of Singapore. They're going to be around 3.5%. Mr. Eric Sprott, again, a very strong name in the sector, sitting around 3%. And then just recently, Mr. Larry Childress, who is putting some money in now, taking a toehold position in the company. As far as warrants go, we've got about close to $9 million that are deep in the money, around average strike around 62 cents Canadian. Currently, we're trading around $1.30 Canadian. Market cap is kind of around 150-ish million Canadian. And as far as the liquidity goes, we've traded over close to 90 million shares of the last 52 weeks, with a VWAP around 93 cents. So liquidity has never been an issue for the company, and well, ever since the company started. So we've had a high of $1.33, a high of $1.37 52-week, and a low of 60 cents. Just as far as a analysis here, potential valuation or a potential re-rate that we could see anytime soon is we look at Great Bear and Newfound Gold, where they were after 12 months of drilling, around 55 or 58,000 meters of drilling. Market caps were like north of 300 million Canadian. Within that 12-month period, we were trading at 117 million. Again, we've got a bit of a re-rate going here, so there's a potential to double the share price where we are currently at the moment. The reason being here is we can drill kind of 3 to 4 months of the year. So we've actually been at drilling this for the last 3 years. Well, this will be the 4th year. But the season is kind of 3 to 4 months. So if you add everything up after this year's season, we'll have just over, call it 1.25 years of drilling at the Sherbet discovery. And then obviously Great Bear taken out recently by Kinross for 1.8 billion Canadian. And one note there, they actually did not have a resource estimate, maiden resource. They just essentially, Kinross did back of the envelope calculations and determined what they thought, how much gold they may have at their property. And, possibly Goliath could follow in that footstep as well. From a area point of view, again, we're in the southeastern tip of the Golden Triangle. A lot of benefits being the fact that, well, certainly in this area, it's in a world-class geological setting where a lot of mines have gone into production, primarily the SK Creek, which was discovered by Murray Pezin back in the day. At one point, it was the highest gold, silver producer for many, many years. And essentially, that's put the Golden Triangle on the map. The other thing being further to the south here, we've got tidewater on either side of the project, which takes you down to Prince Rupert again. So looking for infrastructure, looking at potential being a mine someday, which I do believe it will be. I also do believe it'll be a tier 1 asset once we finish drilling the system. So this tidewater essentially takes you down to Prince Rupert, which is about 190 kilometers to the south here, and where you've got rail across Canada and a deep sea port where you could ship material, your concentrate out to anywhere in the world. And again, the main focus is our Sherbet zone here. This is our Golddigger property, and the blue circle here is where the vast majority of the drillings has taken place. And down here is the town of Kitsault, and that town was built by Phelps Dodge back in the late 70s for the Moly mine. That was in production for a very short period. So we actually have the benefit of a modern town with apartment buildings and roads, power, etc. So again, looking at this as a mining scenario, we tick the box in relation to, essentially your town with all the paved roads, power, sitting on tidewater. Here's a quick kind of a shot of some of the apartment buildings that we use. We have an industrial kitchen. The town houses up to about 300 people. So, essentially it's a turnkey type of operation, which is again, another benefit, another, let's call it characteristic of this system in relation to, ticking the box to differentiate ourselves from the other explorers that are out there. And quickly, what makes this so unique, and it's amazed that no one found it prior to us, is the fact we can see 1 kilometer mineralization at surface. So this is looking north, where we've got this 1 kilometer of mineralization heading up the top. You can touch this all the way up to the top of the mountain. It peaks, and then it goes down the north slope for another 1.2 kilometers. So before we drilled this in 2021, we had a 3D model of the system. So we've hit on every hole we've drilled from 2021 up until 2024 when we're drilling within the main horizon here. And again, thinking about a potential mine scenario one day, we did do some metallurgical work where we're getting actually 92% of the gold from a 327 micron crush. That's just using gravity and flotation. Of that, close to 50% of that gold is free gold just from the gravity alone. So essentially gold is falling out of the host rock. So that is the cheapest form of pouring or creating doré bar here. So again, another benefit to this discovery. So no cyanide required, no deleterious material. Again, another plus for this particular discovery. After this year's drilling, 2024, we're going to have close to 100,000 meters into this 1.8 square kilometer area. So just to put that into relative size, that's like 336 NFL football fields that contain these extensive multiple stacked zones. Just quickly, this is the outcrop that we see. This is looking north again. We've got this high-grade shear within a halo of other mineralized material that is a little bit lower grade. Here's the traces from the 2021 to 2023 programs. You can see that, we've got quite a few pierce points going here. We've advanced the model. This was the original 2021, 2022. And then after 2023, we're kind of looking at these three main loads. The shear bed shear, which essentially sits up on the sedimentary group. And then we've got the Hazelton contact between the sediments above and volcanics below. We call that the bonanza. And then down below is in the Golden Gate area, which is entirely in the volcanics. We have hired some very smart people to assist us with this project because it's advanced so quickly. To name a few, Archer Cathro, SRK Consulting, the Colorado School of Mines actually has been heavily involved. We're a supporter of that school and a bunch of their PhD students. And then obviously, Motherlode Consulting as we continue to, get the next iteration of the model. And what we're seeing really is we do have 10 veins there, but of which there seems to be 6 of the main loads, again, being that sherbet. Here's the bonanza in the purple, and then our Golden Gate down in the volcanics. One of the main focuses for this year's drill program was really trying to hone in on this high-grade area where here's the sherbet cross-section, here's the bonanza. So you can see there's a kind of a convergence of all of these veins coming together where we're seeing very high-grade material. We're seeing lots of visible gold. We're seeing, assays over, 5 to 9 meters true width, essentially, and we're talking over an ounce per ton gold equivalent. So really, the drilling this year has been really kind of figuring out what's going on in here, where are they getting the high grade. Vast majority of these holes within this triangle have visible gold and or abundant visible gold. This is a new hole here up at 272 and then 273. Obviously, we have some assays for these guys here, but you can see the distance of 410 meters across, 612 to the peak, and then 720 to the peak from down at the bottom of the triangle. So if you were to, what does that all mean? It means if we have, let's call it an average of, call it 5 meters at the end of the day, obviously subject to 43101 and assay reports, 5 meters at over an ounce, we're looking at, potentially, 1.2 to possibly 2 million ounces just in this one zone here. And why that's so important is when senior miners are looking at, or mid-tier, any type of miner, when they're looking at a new potential acquisition is there a high-grade pod that we can go and mine out of the gate that'll pay for the CapEx? So hypothetically, let's say even if there's 1 million ounces here of 1 ounce material or even, double-digit grams gold equivalent, this would probably pay for most of the CapEx out of the gate. So again, one of the other key differentiators that we have. And let's not forget about the rest of these other zones, these other loads, the sherbet. We've got the Whopper, we've got Whopper, Eldorado, Bonanza, and Goldzilla as well, which are quite long and wide. So, which we do have holes in them as well. However, we're seeing the most abundant visible gold from this triangle area, and that's really been a really key focus for us this year's drilling. As an example, we did hit the highest concentration of visible gold to date within a 13-meter intercept, where you can see this thing is just, intercept is just chock-a-block full of mineralization, again, in that bonanza triangle. Assays are pending. Here's an assay from hole 197 from last year. again, abundant visible gold that ran essentially, pardon me, almost true width 9 meters over an ounce, 1.09 ounce per ton gold equivalent. One of our holes from this year, hole 235, again in the triangle, that's 5.25 meters, pretty much true width, that ran 1.13 ounces per ton gold equivalent. And then here's just kind of here's that hole 272 in one of the corners, and then 273 at the other corner. So you can see the mineralization is very indicative, or it's very predictable, I guess. When we hit it, we know we're in the system. So high probability, we believe that we're going to get a nice intercept of gold running from there. A new thing that happened this year, 2024, is the first time we've drilled down below the valley floor. In the volcanics, we found 4 brand new zones. They range anywhere from 1 meter up to 3 meters. There's also visible gold in these holes. So, what does that tell us? That there's a lot more going on down below into the volcanics, and that'll be a strategy for the 2025 drilling. Jackpot zone. This is actually about 1.5 kilometers. So Sherbet kind of sits over on this side of the mountain, where we're getting one sample ran last year, 21.5 ounces per ton gold equivalent from a grab sample in situ. And then just recently I was at site in August, and I was able to find a 7 millimeter chunk of gold hanging off of one of the pieces of rocks here from one of the veins. So we're thinking maybe that might be part of the feeder zone, or maybe it's its own brand new shear and its own little kind of pod over there. So again, drilling is happening over there in 2024, and obviously assays are pending, and it'll be interesting to see what happens and this on that development. Here's the picture of the gold. You can see it's rather chunky. It's very rare to see this kind of thing. So, what does it tell us is, this whole area, this mountain range is endowed with like lots of gold, very chunky gold, and obviously very exciting to be seeing, certainly for our prospectors and when we're drilling, looking for this stuff. Another new highlight for us this year is this reduced intrusive related gold system potential, where we've got these porphyritic dikes actually that also have visible gold, which actually may have been the conduit or the pathway of least resistance to bring all this mineralization we're seeing at the Sherbet discovery. And we're seeing similar type of veining about 4.5 kilometers to the south. So that's a new area that we've expanded on this year. We've actually increased our land package from 61,000 hectares up to over 91,000 hectares, because there's quite a few intrusive systems to the south. They typically have thought to been barren, but we're proving otherwise. And here you can see, here's kind of a channel cut that we took, and you've got this veining that kind of essentially goes up through this mountain range, and that'll be possibly a drill target for us in 2025. You can see our land package is quite large. Now here's Sherbet, where the majority of the discovery or majority of the drilling is taking place. Here's the town of Kitsault. And then way up to the north here is our Treasure Island drill target. That was a maiden drill program this year. This is primarily up on the Cambria ice fields. And what's happening there is, essentially what happened at Sherbet is the permanent snowpack is melting, the glaciers are receding. And so we have this area, brand new outcrop, never been drilled before, never been sampled before until we came along. And we put just under 3,000 meters this year from 4 pads, 12 holes. And one point of interest here is all of the holes, all of the samples we took before we drilled it. And so we took samples in 2023, and majority of the holes had more than at least a gram per ton gold equivalent, and or at least greater than 1% copper. So just an example here. Here are the holes that we drilled from each pad for these holes, averaging 30 meters of mineralization, which is pretty amazing considering this was like a complete fluke that we found this thing and mineralization at surface. But of which, of these 4 holes, we're getting close to 7 meters of this massive to semi-massive material, which is very encouraging that high probability it's going to run. As an example, here's the channel cut we took last year in 2023. This channel cut ran 28 grams per ton gold and about 6% copper. The copper here and some of the samples ran up to actually 14%. And here's our first hole that we drilled. Guess what? It's the same looking material. We put the XRF gun on it, and it simply gives us very similar grades. But obviously, assays are pending, and then this is a potentially material new discovery for the company, which we're not getting any value for at this particular juncture. But I would imagine once those assays are released, and assuming they run, which we believe they will, is that again, we're going to be seeing I think a significant re-rate on our share price and market cap. Here's just a closer view of just the mineralization we're seeing at surface. It's splattered everywhere. Chalcopyrite, massive to semi-massive, pyrrhotite, pyrite, etc. So it's got all the right makings for another amazing new discovery. Quickly, just here's the Kitsault Alice Arm. Here's the Tidewater down to Prince Rupert, and then you've got rail across Canada, or you've got a deep sea port that you can take material anywhere in the world. And by the way, we have spoken with a number of concentrate buyers around the world, and they have confirmed with us that the metallurgical work that we have done, we can get top dollar for this material anywhere in the world. And with that, I should also mention that the town of Kitsault, the old moly mine, it's still there. It's permitted. It's on private property. There's no mill there anymore. However, if there was a mining scenario, it'd be very easy to access that potential mill site and put a mine there, or pardon me, put the mill there to process all your material. So an idea possibly crushing material on site. There's road access, or 3 or 4 routes to get into the site, and then the closest barge accesses would just be off to the west, about 7 clicks. So you're building maybe 40 kilometers of road. As you know, there's already an existing road right here, the Dolly Varden Access Road. And just as far as if you wanted to put a mill and all that within the valley, there's lots of room. And the idea, because the system sits above you, or let's say, once a resource is completed, your resource would be sitting up above you. So you got basically gravity also working in your favor, coming down, because it all sits above the valley floor. And with that, that's my presentation, and I'll take questions, please.
Thank you, Roger. A lot of people have heard about the Golden Triangle, and you mentioned, the SK Creek mine, and there's a lot of different terms that companies use, like the volcanogenic massive sulfides. Could you just talk a little bit about, just within the Golden Triangle, kind of the differences in the geological setting, and most particularly for the area where you're working?
Sure. Well, we're actually, we have a unique situation where the sherbet discovery, the sediments are still intact. Typically, the glaciers and the erosion would have taken that away, because the majority of the deposits in the triangle actually are in the volcanics. So we have the benefit of having the sediments above in that sherbet, where we see the 2 kilometers of mineralization at surface, which brought us there. And then we see the contact actually also at surface between the sediments above and volcanics below. And again, that contact is very important, because again, we're seeing this 1 ounce material consistently, kind of that 5 to 9 meters wide, and possibly wider. But and then obviously then the volcanics, no surprise, we're seeing additional stacked zones down there as well. And clearly the gold didn't come up from above, so there's a lot of stuff going on there. So whatever brought this gold into the system is very powerful, a very powerful heat engine, because even to get the visible gold into that the porphyritic material that we're seeing is quite unique as well. So for that to happen, it's something big. We don't know how big it is, which is a nice thing to, for any mining company or any explorer wants to have, because every year we're finding new stuff. And, people ask, well, why don't you put a resource together? So, well, why would we do that when we don't even know how big it is? And it just gets bigger and bigger each year. And next year, a lot more deeper holes into the volcanics. And again, possibly drilling into that heat engine that made all this happen.
Well, and also in your presentation, the red line makes several appearances, and when you talk about the majority of the deposits occur within 2 kilometers of the red line. In fact, you kind of stake ground around that. So could you just explain maybe why that is?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, the BCGS, you know, have designated this, it's a contact between the Stahina and Hazelton group. So yeah, as you mentioned, anything 2 to 3 kilometers on either side, that's where they're finding these massive deposits. And again, we have control over 56 kilometers of this area. And you know, it's just prolific with, you know, lots of gold, obviously lots of copper. You know, the stuff we're seeing up north here, the Treasure Island, we don't think that's related, or maybe somehow related, but ultimately, I mean, we're talking like 40 kilometers to the north. Treasure Island is more like a VMS style,
Right.
so more of a SK Creek type of discovery that we have. And you know, even Porter, Idaho mine, which was an operation, made quite a bit of money back in the you know, in the 30s. They didn't really kind of name it. They kind of gave it kind of a undetermined type of deposit. So, you know, with that regard, at the end of the day, you know, we've been talking to other people, and they just have kind of given up trying to figure out what the heck it is, what type it is, to classify it, other than, hey, guess what? We've mined whatever, you know, 9 million ounces out of this thing. And we don't really, it's not really a key factor for us to know what type it is, other than it's very, you know, endowed with a lot of gold, high grade, and excellent metallurgy.
Well, the results have been really impressive, and the hit rate that you've experienced has been very impressive. And so this 1.8 square kilometer area, you know, where you've done the 100-meter spacing, 10 mineralized veins identified to date. I mean, what do you think is the potential there? And you know, how do these mineralized veins kind of differ from one another? I mean, within that area, have you pretty much kind of figured out where the sweet spots are?
Yeah, so you know, 1.8 square kilometer, it's a big area, it's stacked. Uh, you know, the density on this material is about 2.903, so any of the audience could do their own calculation. As an example, if you take the numbers here, the length and widths, you know, times that by 2.903, take average length or average width of the holes drilled, and then average grade, could give you a pretty big number. And then, so you add that to, again, the bonanza. So we're in on this area where we do see this 1 ounce material. And again, every hole that we've drilled, again, very targeted. And again, with the hope that we can come out of the season and with a high confidence level, or at least show people to demonstrate that, hey, guess what? You know, hole 273 over here's, I mean, the intercept on that is 9 meters. So let's say we had another 9-meter hole at 1 ounce material, or over 1 ounce. Let's say hole 272 up to the top right here. We had 16 meters of mineralization. I mean, if that runs over an ounce, I mean, this is a huge area. Again, do the math at, you know, 5 meters, 2.903 specific gravity, 5 meters width at 1 ounce. I mean, it's would be very, very significant. Obviously, adding and 43-101 resource weighting and so on and so forth, but it's not too difficult to do the math, and I think that's obviously what you know, Kinross did for Great Bear. They went and just looked at the numbers, looked at the widths, looked at the grades, and said, hey, you know, we kind of put a thumb on it of X. There's probably so many million out here with upside of potential, you know, 2X kind of thing. So
Now, you upsized your financing, so could you just maybe reiterate the plan for the remainder of the year in terms of how you're going to spend that money and the drilling program?
sure. The plan really, when we started the season, we had a fairly decent balance sheet. So it's sort of $4.5 million in the treasury coming into the year, with the idea we're going to have a fairly small program. But as things progressed, we decided to essentially double the program. So we're going to drill close to 36,000 meters this year, because all the visible gold we're seeing, we're hitting the highest amount of abundant visible gold. So clearly we're getting closer and closer to this heat engine, or part of it anyways, or certainly one of the weaker spots where the gold was able to, or these fluids were able to travel. And we thought, okay, we have a short season and let's just double down. Let's get 8 rigs going, which we did. We started with 2, ended up with 8 by the end of the year, and successfully will be close to 36,000 meters. So that money that's coming in obviously will help pay for that upsize program, with the addition that we'll have a nice decent balance sheet rolling into 2025. So we don't have to do any desperado financings early in the season when there's not lots of news flow or what have you. So it's just a very enviable position to be in. We're very obviously we're very excited, and this doesn't happen very often. Normally these things end up, the more you drill, the smaller it gets, but the way this is going, the more we drill, the bigger it gets. So that's actually a very unique, again, another differentiator that the company has in relation to some of the other small explorers, because as you know, getting money these days has been very, very difficult. It's been a tough market. Personally, I've never had a problem raising capital for this, because it is a world-class discovery. I do believe it'll be a tier 1 asset when we finish drilling, and I do believe it'll be a mine at sometime down the road.
Roger, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks again, and we'll chat soon.
Hey, Robert Herjavec here. Are you coming to NobleCon in Boca Raton this December? I am, and so is Damon John and Kevin O'Leary. It's Noble Capital Markets' 40th anniversary and their 20th NobleCon. So we'll be there to celebrate. It's an emerging growth equity conference. And that's pretty much the theme of Shark Tank. We're always looking for that gem, that pearl in the oyster. And when we find it, we're in, and you should be too. There's going to be about 200 senior executives from public companies to tell their stories. You don't have to be a shark to find investment ideas at NobleCon 20. I love how Noble puts it. If you're looking for the next apple, this is your orchard. It's at Florida Atlantic University, December 3rd and 4th. See you there.